Hello, my name is Trevor Erickson. I'm with Renner Brown Professional Services, and today I'm going to show you how to fix some issues with the CSA when you only allow HTTPS traffic to your CSA. That means you're not opening port 80, which is one of the ports that the CSA uses. You can do this. You can only limit traffic to HTTPS, which is fine. However, these two links here will break. They'll break because you can see at the bottom they're referencing an HTTP address, which is trying to go through port 80. So the objective here is to fix those links on the CSA. While we do this, we're going to come across some files that we will likely be manipulating in future parts here to this series. So this is our first exposure to the CSA file system, as well as working with those files, which is great. As you can see, I clicked that link and it failed. Right? It tried to go to an HTTP address, and that was no good. But if I add an S, well, that worked, and that's great. However, that's not an ideal solution to direct your users to your CSA and then tell them to add an S to resolve the page. That's just not cool. So what we want to do is fix it so that that does in fact work. Right? Again, these two are the broken links. These three work fine. They go to HTTPS because you'll authenticate against those to use them. So they're encrypted by default. Before we jump into making changes, let's quickly go look at the CSA itself. This is a virtual CSA. And we want to take a look at the firewall settings. In my scenario, I have it disabled, and that's because my CSA is sitting behind my personal home router, which has the firewall enabled, and I'm only allowing port 443 to this particular device. In production environments, the configuration changes, or the configurations will be different from every customer to every customer. You may have this sitting directly on the internet, and in that case you would absolutely have this firewall enabled. You'd have your block lists on, you'd have your allowed traffic specified, and the services that you'd allow. If you have it in a DMZ, you may or may not be using it because you already got firewalls surrounding this application or this appliance. But in any case, you just want to make sure that you look at these things first before we do anything else. You want to make sure that either this is not on, or if it is on, that you have these particular services enabled so that you can get to SSH, which is required to do what we need to do, and obviously HTTPS, so that the other interfaces are up. So just wanted to touch on that briefly. Okay, so let's make our changes. First off, there's a couple tools that we're going to need. I referenced some of them before, and that is FileZilla. That's a free FTP client and also supports SFTP on port 22, which is what we're going to be using to get to our files on the CSA. Notepad++, just the text editor, but my favorite one, so I'm going to be using that today. And PuTTY, which provides SSH terminal access to our CSA to do permissions. Right. First, we'll start by opening FileZilla. And in this interface, if you're not used to it, basically on the left-hand side is your local file system. On the right-hand side here is the remote file system. In this case, it will be our CSA. And then down here is kind of status information that goes back and forth depending on what you're doing. We're going to make our connection up here. So my CSA is ld.noip.us. I'm using my admin account. Remember, this is a CSA account, not a LANDESK or domain account. It is your CSA credentials with admin privileges, whatever that may be. The password. And this is important, port 22, not 21. Port 22 for SFTP. And we'll hit enter. Alright, so it said we were successful here. It listed me under my home admin file path here, which makes sense. I logged in as admin, so we're starting in the admin's home directory. But that's not where the files are that we care about. We need to go to the root. We need to go to OPT. We need to go to LANDESK, Broker, and WebRoot. Here are the files we care about, and particularly client .vroot today. This is the one we're working with in this case. So what we want to do is download this locally and modify it. To do so, you can see on the left hand side my local file system. I've got a CSA directory on my desktop and an orig folder within that. That's where I'm going to store the original files that I download. You can call it backup, you can call it whatever you want. Just make sure that you have a good working copy of the original files, just in case we ever want to revert them. So to get this, we're going to right mouse click and say download. And there it is. And if I go to File Explorer, there it is. And this is where our text editor comes into play. Notepad++. Great. You can use Notepad. You can use any ASCII editor is fine. When we open this, you'll see it's an XML format. Okay, you don't have to know XML to work with this. Just recognize that it is XML. Within it, we've got an index node, and within that, it's defining some information. In this case, it looks like it's defining our two links: Cloud Service Appliance Utilities and User Guides. All right, and we can very easily fix our paths right here. We care about making them HTTPS paths. If we wanted to eliminate this altogether, we could highlight this and completely delete it. I'm not going to do that. But you could, and that would remove this user guide link. And you can see from here that you can do other things, but we'll save that for another day. In this case, we're going to save it, right? We made our modifications. It's great. Minimize that. And I already broke my first rule. Don't modify the original file. So, I did modify the original file. I'm going to make a copy of that and put it right here. Right, and I'm going to go back to FileZilla, and I'm going to download my original file again. And I'm going to overwrite it. There we go. So now I have a copy of my original file. I would recommend downloading the original file and then putting it into an orig folder, or whatever you want to do. Just make sure you have that original copy. Let's just double check that we do. Fine. Yes, reloaded it. Okay, good. Back to normal there. Let's go back up to our CSA. This is where our modified file is. Let's go double check. HTTPS, TTPS. Perfect. Good. Okay. So now what we'd want to do is, well, go to our CSA folder where we updated it, and we're going to upload it and say okay. But it keeps coming back saying our permission is denied, and that is 100% correct. We do not have permission to do this yet. That's why we need to use PuTTY, and we need to give ourselves permission to do it. So let's go do that now. Here we have PuTTY. We're going to open that. We're going to connect to the same host, our CSA, ld.no.ip.us. Obviously, you'd put in your local IP to your CSA here. Port 22. Perfect. All right, we're going to log in with the same credentials. Admin. The password. And so now we're in. That's great. We can do an ls. We see nothing. We're in the admin's home directory. Let's elevate our rights before we do anything else, right? So we're going to do a sudo su. It's going to prompt for the admin password again. We're just going to resupply that same password. Great. We're elevated. And now we're going to browse down to our web root directory, right? So do we remember that? We're going to cd opt LANDESK broker web root. We're now in web root ls. There's our files. Great. And we need to repermission client.vroot vroot. So ch 777 client.vroot. Enter. Good. That repermissions the file to allow pretty much everyone read, write, modify, execute, all those permissions. And we're not going to leave it this way. We're going to revert this back once we've confirmed our changes are good. So don't get upset. This is only temporary. Right. So back to FileZilla. Great. Can we overwrite it now? Yes. Yes, that worked. Great. 405, 405 looks correct. Good. Now let's go here. If I refresh this, it's going to refresh, but these will not change until we reboot our CSA. So we need to do that now. Let's reboot the CSA and see if our changes were effective. Appliance reboot. All right, we're almost there. Come on, okay, we are back up. So now I refresh. I'll refresh again, there we go. So prompting for the certificate, I'll accept it. We'll continue, we'll click OK. It looks like it failed, but if we refresh, now we're in. Great. And, well, look, oh, good. At the bottom we see HTTPS. If we click them, oh great, path us straight in. So confirm that those changes did in fact work. So now we don't have broken links on our main page. Awesome. All right, we're done with that. Now let's go back to Putty. Oh, I'll just kick this out because we rebooted, so that's fine. Let's reestablish our connection. Must re-authenticate. Let's elevate our rights. Great. Let's navigate to the directory. Great. Let's just confirm. There we are. All right. Back to 775, that's the default permission settings. Great. We can confirm those if we go back to FileZilla here. We can do our quick connect and establish our connection again. Browse down to OPT, LANDESK, broker web root. And you can't see it here, but if I pull this over a little bit, it will show you permissions here in FileZilla. We just can't change them with FileZilla. At least I'm not aware of how to change them with FileZilla. That would eliminate Putty if we could. But in this case, we did use Putty. Oh, that doesn't look like it's like the rest. Let's refresh. There we go. Good. So it's back to the default permissions that we expect. So in summary, we started out with broken links here. We modified the files by downloading them using FileZilla locally. We have a backup of the file just in case we need to restore it. We uploaded our changes after permissioning the client vboot file with Putty. We rebooted our CSA. We confirmed our changes worked. And then we permissioned vroot again so that it is not wide open to everybody. So that is it. This is part 1 of our CSA enhancement series. We're going to be going into lots of other exciting things related to modifying this interface. We're going to be able to change these. We're going to be able to remove them. We're going to be able to completely disable this entire interface. So if you want nobody to see this CSA out there, but still maintain client functionality, you can do it. And we're going to review that in a later part of this series. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.